So we're gonna go to Southwest Florida and meet Rick and Louise Wilbanks. Hey, Rick. Hey, Louise. Thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks so much for having us on the show.
Oh, well, thank you. Hey, who's that little guy?
Say hi to Gunner.
Gunner. Oh, well, then meet my son, Gunner.
Our Gunner says hey.
How did you two end up with Gunner?
Well, I went to a needlepoint store in Naples to get my wife some thread, and they had a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. And I just loved that little puppy, and I sat down on the floor and played with it for about 30 minutes. And I came home and told Louise, I said, well, we just gonna get us a dog. He picked me out. I mean, he just snuggled up to me, and I said, well, he's going home. You know, he's going to Estero, Florida. So we loaded him up and brought him home, and he was only 7 weeks old. He's just been like a child for us ever since. I mean, we just love him so much, and he loves us so much.
And at this point, Rick and Louise had Gunner for about a week. And if I'm correct, Sunday rolled around, right? What happened then?
Well, you know, it was about 10:30, and we had just decided to go out, walk along the edge of the pond, which is kind of my usual Sunday morning. And, you know, we were going out. I had some sunglasses on, and I had a collar, but when I went and got Gunner, I had bought him a collar and leash, but the collar was, I mean, I wasn't expecting to be as small as he was. So my sunglasses broke, and I was fiddling with them, and Gunner just pulled out of his collar, and the next thing I heard was a yelp. And, you know, I was only 3 feet from him. I turned around and I saw an alligator's tail swimming out, and I knew right then what had happened, that Gunner had been taken by the alligator, and all I saw was a tail, because Gunner was underwater, the gator was pretty much underwater other than his tail, and I just, you know, I guess adrenaline reaction kicked in, and I just jumped in and caught up with the alligator. I was about, I don't know, chest deep in the water, and I got the alligator up to the bank, and, you know, and I'll tell you what, an alligator getting his mouth open, they do not like to give up whatever they got. I mean, even with my adrenaline pumping, and at my age, I'm still a pretty strong person, but it took every ounce of energy I had to get his mouth open and get Gunner out. And then when I did, Gunner ran off about 5 feet and just laid down, went into shock. And my hands were stuck in that alligator's mouth at that point, so I finally worked them out, and I got the alligator's mouth closed, and we've got a chain link fence behind the pond, and I picked him up, and he was about, I don't know, close to 5 feet, because I'm 5'10", and I had him up like this, and his tail was touching, and I just slung him over that chain link fence to get him away from me and Gunner. And then I picked Gunner up and rushed him to the house and told my wife, I said, well, we got to get Gunner to the hospital. He's been attacked by an alligator.
So, Rick, you didn't think twice about jumping in after the gator?
You know, it was just a reaction thing. All I wanted to do was get Gunner back, and, you know, when I got the alligator to the bank and got Gunner out, then, you know, my biggest concern was whether he had any internal injuries, because the alligator had him clamped down pretty good in his jaws.
I take him and then put him in the car. Rick wants to hold the puppy, so I'm driving, and it was like surreal. I just didn't even realize what was going on. And there was blood, but it was all Rick's blood. It wasn't the puppy's blood.
Thank goodness. They kept him in the hospital. He had one little puncture wound in his rib cage, and but he had some water in his lungs, so they kept him for a couple of days and gave him some IV antibiotics to keep him from getting pneumonia. And I went and got a tetanus shot and came home. They wanted me to go get some stitches in my hands, and I just came home, put some super glue in them, pushed them back together.
Super glue?
Speaking of super glue, looks to me like you had that cigar super glued to your lip the whole time.
Well, probably what would have been coming out of my mouth if I hadn't been chomped down on that cigar wouldn't have been worth anybody listening to.
How's Gunner doing now?
Gunner right now is doing great. He's 9 months old, but he's still like a little kid. He just jumps up and down. We have this leather couch that's, two sides. It's a big couch, and he has now made it his own personal gym. And he goes up, and he goes down, and he goes around. And if he wants to go outside, he does tricks. But when he's in the house, he's either going crazy or sound asleep.
So if you guys told people this happened, no one would have ever believed it. But fortunately for us, we got it on camera.
And the reason it was captured on video is the F-Stop Foundation, which was a project created to educate the public about human-wildlife interactions. And joining us is the president of the F-Stop Foundation, William Freund.
Hey Kevin, hi Gunner, thanks for having us on your show. Love the show and love what you guys are doing, so thank you.
Hey William, we love what you're doing.
So, can you tell us why you had a camera there in Rick's backyard?
So the camera was on that in a specific spot because it's part of a project that we have in partnership with the Florida Wildlife Federation called the Sharing the Landscape Project.
And you just had a feeling that there were alligators near Rick and Louise's house, huh?
So this particular camera we put on this cypress tree, looking at the water because we know that the animals need to drink, and so somebody's going to come up to the water and drink, and that's usually a pretty cool behavior. You have a lot of deer there, the does with the fawns, and so you have a lot of that interaction, as well as the wading birds that are fishing on the edge of the lake and stuff like that.
What was going through your head when you first saw that video?
It's been a great video to help create awareness for the project and for everything that we're trying to do. But I think it's very important to remember that for the great majority of times, whenever there is human and wildlife interaction, it does not end up well.
What do you mean, doesn't end up well?
It either doesn't end up well for the human or it doesn't end up well for the wildlife, because usually when there is that contact, the wildlife is usually taken out and removed. Luckily, the alligator was not. It's still there and swimming around. It's very important to remember just how critical it is to give them that respect, the wildlife that respect, to give them the space that they need, and to remember that they are wildlife.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, William.
Thanks, Kevin, Gunner, appreciate it, and love being on the show.
So, Rick and Louise, getting back to you, we understand that when this video went viral, Gunner got a special honor from the community. Tell us about that.
Well, Gunner is a deputy dog with the Lee County Sheriff's Department, and presently we're going around to schools, and Gunner has a couple of books out, a coloring book and a book about water safety and all the animals that we have in this part of Florida.
So, after this scary incident, do you still see the alligator from time to time?
I have seen the alligator again. It came back through the fence and went back in the pond, and of course the wildlife people had to do an investigation because I got bit. And when they came out, I told them, I said, look, the alligator was doing what it does to survive. I don't want the alligator removed for the pond, and as far as I know, it's still swimming around out there. Right now, I think I saw it a week or so ago, and it's probably about 6 feet at this point. But we love our wildlife. That's why we moved here.
Well, Rick, Louise, Gunner, thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having us, and we look forward to more adventures of yours.